Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to the channel and check out the other videos. And if you're here for a second, third, or fourth time, thank you so much for coming back and getting creative. Alright guys, it's going to be another fun painting for my beginner painters. So grab your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. Now on mine, I went over the traceable with a black Sharpie marker for those of you at home that are going to draw what you see. So those of you using the traceable, you don't have to do the black lines on top. So we are starting with a light blue, and we're using the large flat brush. We're going to kind of start to fill in the background, and then we'll go a little bit lighter and put some darker colors on top of it. So I do want you to be rather generous with the amount of paint that you apply, so that way we can do some of our blending. I am using student grade paint, and if you apply it kind of thin, then it's a little more transparent. So if you're a little more opaque, then it has a little better coverage. Now, if you have to mix your shade of light blue a couple of times, don't stress about getting the exact same shade. If it's a little lighter or darker than the one before, that's okay. Having variety really is to your benefit as you create an interesting background. Now, if you need to, feel free, you can grab one of the smaller brushes. If you need to get in a little more controlled around the figures, feel free to switch brushes. And you are more than welcome to change any colors in today's painting. I am doing a simplified version of Monet's Woman Holding a Parasol, so feel free to pull up his original image, his original painting, and you can reference either one. So here you can see where I add a little bit more blue, made it kind of a light medium blue, and painted it right on top of that light blue. And with light pressure, making little X marks, going over the top and kind of blending it into that base color. This is called wet on wet blending. We will do this with a little bit of the pure white as well to kind of give an indication of where the clouds are. So as you're painting, please do not paint as fast as the video. It is sped up. Go at your own pace and pause the video as needed. And if you are holding your breath, remember to breathe, relax. I'm really proud of you for painting at home and just kind of stepping out of your normal comfort zone and trying something new. So good place to pause the video and take your progress photo. Here we did move down to the smaller brush and being extra generous with the amount of white paint that I'm putting on here for the kind of impressionistic clouds that are in the original. So do notice that probably every 2 or 3 brush strokes I am grabbing more paint and I'm kind of globbing it on there. With the student grade paint, it will flatten out a little bit as it dries, so it won't keep this thick impasto look. But again, this is wet on wet blending because the background on my painting is still wet as we add this to it. This is kind of one of the more fun aspects of painting, is just mixing the colors together on your actual painting. All right, so clean that brush. We're going to move down to green paint. We're going to kind of get our base colors in here first. So we're kind of giving an indication that we're going to have a shadow from each of these figures. So right now I'm just kind of outlining both of them and then we'll be filling them in. So all I want you to do at home is just kind of observe the weird abstract shape that this is and mimic that to the best of your ability on your canvas. And that's really all you're doing as you follow along on the video or you're observing the original painting. You are strengthening your power of observation as you create something and turn a blank surface into your final painting. So like I said earlier, you're more than welcome to switch out colors. And if you are noticing different colors on the original and you want to add that to yours, go right ahead and switch it out. I did do this kind of more of the simplified version. This channel is more for first time and beginner painters. So you can always complicate the painting more if you want to. All right, so here we're kind of filling in the rest of that grassy space with a mixture between yellow and green. Yours might be a little lighter or darker than mine, but just kind of filling in the base. And then we're going to be putting dash marks and giving that nice kind of Monet choppy brushstroke style. So we'll be putting them on top of this. And it kind of helps to build the layers, get this base layer on here, especially with the student grade paint, and then do more brushwork on top of it. So again, another place to pause your video and take a progress photo. We're going to go back to medium blue, and we're going to put the shirt on for the figure, the boy in the background. And again, as we do this, I don't want you to think of them as people or as figures, because then you're going to think too much. I want you to just focus on shapes that you see and the place that I put each of those shapes. And again, just mimic that to the best of your ability and strengthen your power of observation. Now, the more that you strengthen that power of observation, you'll see it show up in other places in your life. So it's even at your job, it's good to have a strong power of observation. So here we went back to the light blue, so really light blue to fill in most of the dress for the main figure. And then now going back to that medium blue and just kind of breaking up the sections of her dress. I want you to kind of notice the angle of each of these lines that I make, and it gives a flow for her skirt that is blowing in the wind. Same thing if you look at the original, you'll see kind of intentional directional lines with the brush strokes. Again, if you're holding your breath, remember to breathe, relax. You're doing a great job, and I do encourage all my students as you paint this, get out of your chair, step away from your painting, and observe it from a distance of 5 to 10 feet away. And this is the normal viewing distance for most things in life, and especially artwork, and we tend to see stuff a little bit different, and we tend to like it a little bit better from a distance. So here I moved down to the pointy brush and a little bit darker blue than what I was just using. So I want you to go a little darker than what you were using, even if it doesn't match the color I'm using. And again, observe where we place this and the general direction that the shape of the brush stroke or the general shape that I place on here. And if you are still finding that your brush is shaky as you go to apply paint, that does mean you're holding your breath. So if you exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, that'll help with your process. And notice that we did put the light blue above the underneath of the umbrella, but it does kind of blend in with the background sky. So we'll be defining that a little bit later on. So clean that brush really good. You're going to use white with a tiny amount of raw sienna. We're going for a light cream color for the skin tone, for the face and the neck on both figures. And you are again more than welcome to change the skin tone on your painting if you want. Now grabbing a little bit of that direct raw sienna, we're putting it right underneath her neck. We're going to blend that in and then giving her brown hair. So you'll notice where I kind of apply it on the canvas and then wipe my brush off and then kind of go back and smooth that into the base color. This will get more comfortable with more practice. So this is a painting, especially for my beginner painters, something to paint now, and then maybe in a year from now, you paint it again. And by doing so, you'll see a visual demonstration of how much you have improved and how you just kind of build your skills from all the paintings that you have done during that time frame. And don't forget to add a little skin tone for her hands holding the umbrella. Forgot to mention that. All right, and now moving back up to the medium flat brush, we're going to go to that medium blue or light blue and just start filling in with these choppy little dash marks. I am holding that brush sideways. You can switch down to the small pointy brush if that's more comfortable for you. And again, mimicking those same lines that we did kind of earlier on in the painting, giving the indication that we've got the wind kind of blowing from behind her and blowing the skirt. When we get into working with the grass, that will give an even more visual depiction of the direction of the wind. And here, using that pure blue, placing it in the few distinct areas, and then going back with light pressure and softening it into the base light blue that we had just applied. And we are increasing the contrast by doing this, by adding the darker colors next to the lighter colors. And again, the more that you paint, the more you'll see that in different paintings and kind of understand the value scale. All right, and going back with that light blue and almost even white, just kind of filling in some spaces that weren't covered with paint. And this also kind of helps me blend a little bit. So again, giving definition to the skirt and her blouse. And then now moving back into the green. This was my favorite part in doing it. So still holding that brush sideways. And again, notice the direction that each of these dash marks that I make on this one or on the original. And I want you to imagine each dash mark is like a blade of grass or a wildflower or something that is blowing in this nice meadow that Monet is painting. So some of these can be long dash marks, some of them can overlap. They do tend to lean towards the right. They kind of tend to lean towards, if this was a clock, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock. And again, that mimics the same direction that her skirt is blowing. And now I've switched down to the pointy brush, so you can kind of go back and forth, whichever one that feels more comfortable. And whichever brush that you are using, kind of play with the pressure. Light pressure will create skinnier, smaller lines. A little more pressure will create wider lines. And if you have a varying width of line in your painting, that's okay. That's where you're painting for today. And as you keep doing this, again, overlap these lines, overlap these brush strokes. We're going to go through with a lot of green, and then we're going to do the light green and some yellow and some other colors in there. And like I said, I simplified this just for teaching, but Monet has quite a few other colors in his. Now, if you started to get a little impatient like I did, feel free to grab that large brush and treat it the same way. Now I'm grabbing a little bit of that blue, going for a darker shadow. And Monet was really good about not using black. He would combine different colors to create his shadows. So that's one of my favorite things about his style. All right, and just a bit of brush maintenance. You may notice that your brush strokes just start getting wider and wider and wider. Take a look at your brush. You might have a lot of buildup on there, so feel free to wipe off that excess paint or fully clean the brush and then go back and grab your pigment and keep moving on. So here we did clean the brush. Now we're moving back to the yellow and green color combo. My paint is wet as I'm going through all of this. So I am overlapping, the colors changing a little bit, and every 2 or 3 brush strokes, kind of grabbing more paint and applying it to the canvas. And this is another fun point to go back and look at your painting from that distance of 5 to 10 feet away, and just start noticing how these shadows and these different colors are lending to a sense of depth on your painting. And that's one of the best parts about painting. You are a magician creating this 3D illusion, 3D space on a flat 2D surface. And again, feel free if you need to go back to the smaller brush, go right ahead. We're going to put some of that lighter green up in the underneath of the umbrella, and also putting a second layer on there helps with the opacity and just makes it look a little bit better with that second layer of paint on. And then doing a little bit of shading with the green. Again, just kind of notice the shapes and the lines that it makes to give the illusion that we have this umbrella, this parasol that she is holding. And now moving to the raw sienna, we're going to get the handle of the umbrella on there and some of the inner structure, the inner spine on there. So again, feel free to pause the video at any point just to observe the place and shape for each of these sections. You're doing a great job. Takes a lot of courage to paint at home, so you guys are doing awesome. All right, so now going back to that light blue, we're going to adjust and define the top of that umbrella a little bit more. So making it a little lighter and then going in with that dark blue, I'm going to outline that left-hand side, and that makes it kind of stand out from the sky colors. All right, doing a good job. This is coming along nicely. So now we're going to go into a light purple. There was some hints of light purple in her dress. Again, just kind of observe the general place of where I'm putting them. These are tiny little dash marks, keeping with the flow of the skirt, and even little dots. And again, get out of your chair and look at this from a distance after you've added a little bit. I am going in a little bit darker with some medium purple just to give it one more kind of pop color. And our last thing that we'll do on the dress, we're going to go in pretty heavy-handed with the white, and this is going to be on the right-hand side of the dress. And again, notice that every couple of brush strokes I grab more paint, put it on there pretty heavy, and this gives a nice indication of that the sun is coming from the right-hand side of the painting. And then I felt the need to accentuate more of the clouds to bring it a little bit closer to kind of how choppy and cool stylized the Monet painting was. So adding more, and again, just kind of applying it kind of thick in the sky. This is coming along nicely. You guys are doing a great job. All right, so going back to that big brush and purple, I'm going to make that shadow just even a little bit darker. And again, like I said earlier, the original has quite a few various colors in there, so feel free to look that up and add what you see in the original to your painting. And now I'm going to go back to that medium blue. I did not even worry about washing the brush off because I am applying this kind of thick, but if you feel inclined to wash your brush off, go right ahead and do that. Some of my blades of grass are still wet, so it's still kind of mixing the color together. And if that's happening on yours, you are more than welcome to let it dry, and then you can kind of reapply the colors, especially like if the yellow, if your paint is still really wet underneath. Now that we're going to go to apply the yellow, might make it a little bit easier after it fully dries. And these little dots of yellow are just the little wildflowers in there, and I'm still using that large flat brush, but just using kind of the corner of it. So if you need to, you can jump down to the small pointy brush to make these little flowers in the yellow. All right, and then moving in with the yellow for the blades of the grass. Again, just kind of breaks up some of that darker green space. And anything else you might want to add to the simplified version of Monet's painting. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and getting creative. Don't wait too long to do your next painting. And until then, cheers. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the process of painting and I hope you are happy with how your paintings turned out. I'm really proud of you for getting creative. As you're uploading these to social media, please tag me at or hashtag paintwithlovejoy or email me your pictures paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. I really enjoy seeing them. I try to post them on social media to encourage other beginner painters to try the process of painting. But please share this with your community as well. Anybody who is kind of scared to paint, share your experience with them and let them know kind of how much you benefited from it and how much you enjoyed the process. So kind of share the fun. With that being said, if you have any comments, questions, feedback, things that you want me to paint in the future, please leave a comment. I try to respond to everybody as quickly as I can. And any of the future suggestions for paintings, I add that to my production list and get to them as quickly as I can. So in the meantime, please keep getting creative. Let me know how you're doing. And until next time, cheers.